Good evening, everyone. John and Risotto here, along with George Batista. Welcome to our show here. We are very excited. Artistblueprint.live. If it's your first time here, we want to thank you for joining us. It's a brand new year, so happy New Year to everyone out there. We have an exciting show. These two things that you see on the screen there, we're going to explain those to you in a second, but just hang on tight, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome. John Henry Soto here, along with George Batista, and welcome to the show. I am. I did a live earlier today on Instagram and another one on Facebook, and I was talking a little bit about this because I was thinking, okay, we're gonna do this show today, and we're gonna be talking about something that happened to me, and whenever it's and you know this too, George, because we this is what we do. We talk about our experiences, and then. Um, there could be an element that can come off sometimes sounding somewhat egotistical or some kind of narcissism deal because we're talking about ourselves and it's our. And then I was thinking about that and I was saying, well, no, because the reason I do this is because I've experienced things in my life, and so have you. And we thought, well, part of the reason why we actually talk about these things is because we've experienced them and we want to be able to help others with all the mistakes that we've made and all the successes that we've had. But the key thing here, because everybody has had experiences, right? And no human being has ever not had an experience, whether good or bad, they've had experiences. But the key thing is to be able to document them and to be able to put them in a cohesive package that can be delivered to either an audience, to your family, to your friends, to coworkers, whatever, that can help them. And so that's where you have to kind of stay in present time when you're going through things, and even the hard times,
Right.
because what I'm going to talk about today was a very, very, very difficult time for me in my life. So it's very personal for me, this moment that really shaped the last 14 years of my life, and kind of brought us to where we are today. So, with that being said, I want to make sure that people understand that that is the reason why we do this show. It's the artist blueprint. It's a blueprint that every episode is another piece of the puzzle that from our experiences that we share with the audience, and we hope that you benefit from this. And we do get actually wonderful responses, and we get good feedback from people watching the show. So we know that it is actually effective, and we want to be able to reach millions of people, and that to us is really important. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of like start the show with that. That's why this show is about this. It's not a show about just George and I just wanting to talk about ourselves and stuff. There's a real purpose behind it. So that's it. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Happy New Year.
Yes, same to you. I hope everyone had a great new year and is ready for an amazing year. I think we got some great stuff coming up.
Yeah.
And but to your point, I completely agree. And the thing is, look, it's not like we make money off of this show or a ton of money off of this show or anything like that. We're doing this really. I look at it as almost like a service. We're just we're helping people, and we're talking about something we love, music and artistry and all this, and at the same time just helping people. You think about people in life, to me, right? I mean, I people who have helped other people, many times is because they've been through whatever it is
Yeah.
that they're helping, right? There are people. One of the gentlemen that we had on this show, who is with and why am I forgetting his name? But you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Who was when he was younger was into substance abuse and all this type of thing. We had him on our show, and now he counsels thousands of people. Bobby
Wiggins.
Bobby Wiggins.
Yeah,
He
with
counsels
the
thousands
drug-free
of
world.
drug-free world. There you go. He counsels thousands of people on that thing. Now,
for 40 plus years.
Exactly. And think about it. He
So
went
yeah,
through it. He was one of those people that went through that. And now
mhm,
he turned it around and he's helping other people. So you wouldn't call him arrogant, right? You would say, no, he's actually turned around. He's saying, listen, I'm helping you.
yeah,
So, I think about it in those terms.
yeah, yeah. And I think we have to because it's also this is also a show that we want to encourage others. And I can't tell you how many people have told me I would like to do a podcast, and I've had conversations like this with them via here or on the phone or in person, helping them kind of get their show
Right.
because I think it's important for, especially if you have a story to tell, if you really feel like your experience and your journey can impact someone and really change someone's life, then why not freaking do it? You know
I
what I
agree.
mean? It's like it's almost a responsibility.
Yeah,
You gotta bring people that bring them up with you,
exactly.
and that to me is the reason why I thought, because this was a topic that I've touched upon very briefly in the past. I might have even told you about it. Um, but I didn't go really into it because it was such a painful time of my life that I just thought I don't want that out there. I'd rather just keep that, and just like not put that in there. But the reason I can put it out there is because I overcame it.
Right.
Like if I was still stuck in it, or if I was, I probably wouldn't be here, and I probably wouldn't be so eager to actually tell the story to try to help someone, right? So
Hmm.
that was part of the reason why I decided that I'm going to talk about this, and yeah, and just kind of get to it. So hey, before we actually do that, we kind of get into it here kind of quickly sometimes, but we want to give a little love to our sponsor, Wellness Resources. So George, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can do some wellness resources activity.
Thank you. Sir. Thank
That's
you.
what
Sir. I
we're
don't know what
calling
that
it.
means, but okay.
Do some wellness
um,
resources activity,
activity.
please.
Anyway, yes, the artist blueprint.live is brought to you by Wellness Resources, a family owned and operated nutritional supplement company providing the highest quality, clinically formulated supplements since 1985, which is a damn long time. Find out why they are one of the leading supplement companies in the world, including my favorite supplement company. Check them out because they've got amazing, amazing supplements. Check out Wellness Resources at myvitaminresource.com. Now, of course, as our listeners and viewers, if you enter the promo code Counterparts, you will get free shipping on your order. But don't forget, and I always like to make sure that I highlight this, that every month they have a special. And this month's special is 25% off their thyroid supplements,
Oops.
and which is a good thing because especially in January where it's cold and we're going through a lot of right now we've got about a foot of snow up here in New York State. We these type of months are very tough on the thyroid, and energy in general. So definitely check out their supplements, and especially their thyroid supplements, because they are some of the best thyroid supplements I've seen probably on the market. So again, Wellness Resources supplements at myvitaminresource.com.
Cool. I showed the wrong one
I
originally,
know.
so that's the
It's called
correct one. I'm glad you didn't read
improvisation.
the wrong one. I will also say that very soon the promo code is going to change. It's
Hmm.
still counterparts, but it's going to change to artist blueprint only because we just haven't done that part yet with the company, and eventually. But anyway, we'll announce that when it's there. But um, yeah, so that's that. Um, okay, so I'm gonna get into it, and um, so this is something. I'll tell the story of what occurred first because it was kind of interesting. And George is actually somewhat involved in this time period of my life, actually. So in 2009, it was a rough year. 2009 was a rough year. There was my my mom passed away suddenly, like really suddenly. Like she went to the hospital and she was gone in 10 days. Like it was that quick. And shortly after that, I had so much trouble that year for some reason just finding work. Like and I've always been able to go out. I've quit jobs without having anything set up because it never occurred to me that I would have any problems finding work. It just wasn't a thing. And I was at a point in my life where I was not really fulfilling my purpose, and I was trying to fulfill someone else's purpose. I was trying to be something that I'm not. And I'm going to talk a little bit about being, doing, and having actually. But I was being something that I'm didn't want to be, and something that I'm not. And I could not, for the life of me, could not find work at this point. I was like, what is going on? So I had been working at this one place, and to show you how things went that year for me, um, mom passes, and a week later I get laid off from this job that I had, right? And George, luckily enough, was working at a place that um, basically he was HR, and he knew me. I had he knew my integrity and my work ethic. So I was able to go to him, and George got me work. George, you got me like 4 or 5 jobs,
Yeah.
and not it's different
The
buildings.
buildings and yeah.
So I was doing what do you call that job? Concierge, I guess.
Yeah, like a concierge at the front of a in
Yeah,
a building. Yeah.
yeah. And I tell you, it was really fun actually. I did not fit in anywhere, but I met some great people there. Some people thought at one of the positions that I was in, I've been before that I was always a manager of many people, and some stuff happened and life happened, and I again my all I would never blame anyone for anything that I'm going through. It was always my responsibility. I let myself be led in a direction that I didn't want to go, and I just went there thinking like, well, I guess this is okay. And that's a huge mistake. So, but when I was at this place, I'm used to managing people, and now suddenly I'm not. I'm literally at a front desk checking people in. I saw, I think Pataki, I think was the governor.
The governor.
He came in, and Belinda Carlisle came in one day at one of the places, and I'm a huge fan of Belinda Carlisle. But anyway, so this started being my life. I started kind of working at these places, and I didn't fit in because people one guy kept calling me. He said that I was from Undercover Boss. He said, you don't look like you. He's like, yo, man, you don't look like you should be here. This guy's from Undercover Boss. And you can tell everybody's laughing. I'm like, trust me, I am not undercover anything. I am just trying to survive. And it was a really, really dark time for me, meaning I was grateful that I was able to work
Yeah.
and just, put food on the table and pay for the rent, basically. I mean, it was like, but it was also like the least amount of money. Like, it was just at a certain,
Yep.
like I was making this and it was like, boom, it was like half
Right.
suddenly, boom. And that's just where I was at that point. So those jobs were sort of like not permanent. There was one place that they kind of wanted me. They were pushing for me to go permanent, but I was thinking like, I don't think I can do this for a long period of time. There was some people that were there 20 years, and I just thought in my head, I was like, I don't know if I can, but I'm not going to say no to it because I don't know what the future holds. You know what I mean? So I kind of stayed, and I always did a good job. I got good, reviews. They always called me back. I don't know what you heard, but I don't know if you ever heard any complaints about me.
Not at all.
So I was grateful for that part of it, but it was only sort of like not seasonal, but it was always when it was available. Somebody
Yeah.
was going on vacation or whatever,
Hmm.
and that's kind of like where I would go in. And so then Christmas time was coming up, and there's literally, luckily, had no kids yet, because because this was me and my wife Pamela starving, right, or going through it. But what I was able to do was I was able to get a job selling Christmas trees. You probably remember that.
I remember this one. Yeah.
So, so I'm selling. So I get this job, and it's only in the evenings. I'm making almost embarrassing money. It was like you get a little bit of money when people buy a tree, they tip you. And if you bring the tree to their house, look at my, I'm a little, nobody can see me from here, but if you, I'm a short dude. I am short. I mean, there's a lot here. Like, I am a personality, but as far as height, I'm Danny DeVito height. You know what I mean? I am short, right? So if you can imagine me carrying a freaking 8 foot tree, struggling because I'm, at this point, obviously, whatever, 14 years ago, I was younger, you know, but still not so young that I was like that I can do it. I would carry these trees, and there's sap. If anybody knows about Christmas trees, there's sap. It's sticky. It got all over my clothes. The tree would get stuck to my shoulder. I'd have to pull. So I'm carrying these onto these high-rise buildings, these freaking lavish, incredible buildings. And with the owner and stuff like that, and even some of the owners that I would deliver these trees to would be like, do you need any help with that? And me being so, I wanted to work, I wanted to do the job. I don't want to tell the guy, yeah, can you carry your tree? You know what I mean? I was like,
Right.
no, I got it. And I'm pretending that I got it. And in my head, I'm like, this is going to hurt tomorrow. Like, I don't got it. Because I was too, my pride got the better of me, right? So I would carry these trees. And then one day, this was one day I get to a house, beautiful apartment. I mean, it was like stunning apartment, right? And so they had the base and everything. So I put it into the base and stuff, and it went up and it hit the ceiling. So it brushed against the ceiling. So I had to cut the bottom. I didn't bring a saw with me. And he's like, oh, I don't have a saw or anything. So I'm like, oh, okay. I said, no problem. I'm just going to run back and get it, right? Like 3 blocks, right? So I'm leaving there. I am like so tired. My body is aching, right? This was like on a afternoon shift. And I would work from afternoon overnight to like 7 o'clock in the morning. That was
Wow.
my shift. I would get there like around 7 o'clock at night, and I would work till about 7 o'clock in the morning. So I run back, and then I'm there and I'm sawing a tree, the bottom of a tree, right? And I saw this tree, and I leave there. I situate the thing. He gives me a nice tip, and I needed the tip. Like, this is why I tip good.
Yeah.
You can ask my wife. She's like, "How much are you giving?" I'm like, "I gave a good tip. I tip good. I don't care. I'm not rich, but I tip good because I know that tip means something.
Sure.
It's not just nothing. You know what I mean? So I always tip my servers. It's getting a little bit. Sometimes it's a little bit. People have it on their phones now. And they're
Yeah.
like,
Right.
hi, I just gave you directions to the mall.
Here's the tip.
They have, well, I was just asking. But so I go back to the place, and I'm working that evening. Now, mind you, this was early in the day that I
Right.
delivered this tree, right? It was like after work, people get off of work and stuff. Now I'm staying there all night. I'm there for another 10 hours. I'm there. And so I'm hanging out that night, and these big, huge, giant trucks filled with Christmas trees would come in the middle of the night, like 2 o'clock in the morning, to drop off a whole bunch of trees. And I have to help with these massive trees. And these guys that they hired were these big dudes, big, like guys from Russia, Poland, big Polish, guys from Poland, big guys, you know what I mean? And me. So they're pulling the trees down, and I have to carry these trees. I can't lift them. They're hundreds of pounds, some of these things. So I got to drag them into place, right? So the truck leaves at about maybe 3 something in the morning. I am beat to hell. I'm sitting. I had to get a little chair. I bought boots. I bought a coat. I bought because it was wintertime, so it's freezing. Had a hat, all this stuff. You probably don't know any of this story, George.
That part, no.
Yeah. So I'm like literally. So I'm in the corner. There was this building that we used to sell the trees in, and there was a little crevice between the 2 buildings. So I would put a chair in there, and I would squeeze myself in there just to kind of prevent from the elements, because it was windy.
Yeah.
And even though you're covered up, if your face is exposed, you're still getting hit. So I would be in there. Then all the stores would close. There was a coffee shop that opened early, like 4 a.m. Somebody was in there, so I would go in and get a coffee at 4. So there's one night, and this is leading to to this thing, to this thing. So um, this one night, probably around, oh, I don't know, maybe 5 o'clock in the morning or something. It's just kind of dusk, or not dusk. It's dawn.
Hmm.
Is it dawn or dusk? I don't even know
Dawn.
which one. Yeah. So I had a coffee and stuff, and the boss comes, right? The boss comes, and this guy was a piece of work, and wherever he is right now, God bless him. I hope he's doing well. God bless him and his family and everyone. Um, but he was not a nice man. He was not a nice man because and at the time I thought, well, I know I did something, and I probably did. I'm already screwed,
Right.
right? I'm selling Christmas trees at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm already in a pit, so I'm already doing something that I shouldn't be doing. I'm already in a pit. I'm already pulling in things I shouldn't be pulling in, right? And so I'm completely at this point caved. I'm like at the lowest I could think of. I mean, mom died, no money, I can't get work, and I'm selling Christmas trees. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. It's 20 degrees. It's cold, rain, sleet hitting the ground, and I'm in a corner. And I remember thinking, I'm like, what the hell happened?
Right.
And it's like I
Right.
never had this situation before. And I'm not going to blame the economy, and I'm not going to blame the politicians at the time. I mean, back then nobody even talked about politics as much as now. But um, so this was I'll tell you the date. I'll tell you the exact date. It was November 28th, 2009. And so I'm in this thing. The boss comes. Now he comes. A big truck came. He was on the truck. Another truck came with another delivery. Right. So I'm already dead.
Right.
So he starts barking at me about putting certain trees in certain areas. I couldn't physically move certain trees. Like George, you're a big dude, right? You're a 6 feet. You would have trouble moving these trees.
I'm sure.
These guys that picked them up had these belts.
Uh,
They had these big belts. They were these big dudes. This is what they did. This is what they did. They were if they weren't doing this, they were movers. They were, you know what I mean? They were
yeah.
guys that just had that power. I couldn't physically move them, so I was like, I can't move. I can't move this thing. You can't move. I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. He goes, oh yeah, you're sorry. Yeah, all right. You just can't do the job. And he was such a jerk to me, and that was like I'm always like I'm a chill guy. People who know me generally know I'm a pretty chill guy. Hold on. I'm not crying. My voice. I just got the, but I'm not crying, not yet. So people who know me know that I'm a pretty chill guy. You know what I mean? I don't like, you read it. I don't do that. But I lost it. Everything was going wrong. There was nothing going right. This guy who hired me, I'm here in the middle of the night watching his freaking trees and selling trees. And people would buy trees, by the way. Two
Mm.
o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, people come down and buy a tree.
Amazing.
And I'd have to go and secure the area and go buy trees. I'm securing like 100 trees. I would have to go, and hopefully no one took a tree. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I mean, it was at the upper. It was a good area. It was the Upper West Side near Lincoln Center.
Mm.
So it wasn't like an area where there was a lot of that kind of crime. But who knows? Some whatever. So he comes in and he's barking at me and barking at me and barking at me. Out of character, I just lost it. I just started cursing him out. And for those who know me outside of, like, I don't really curse much on the show, but I'm a cursor. I've got no shame on it. And I cursed him out. I sent him everywhere but heaven. I told him, I told him off. I also know, I won't go into details on anything else, specifically on things that we said, but I cursed him out. I'm cursing him out. I'm cursing him out. And he's like, get out. He's like, get out of here. And I'm like, F
Mm.
you. Of course I'm out of here. I don't want to be here. You're a jerk. You're a jerk. You're not right. And there's certain people that he knows that I know, and
Mm.
they know that you're a jerk as well. They just put up with it. I'm not putting up with it. You can go to hell, you piece of dirt. And I walked away, and I was so heated. That I picked this up. It was a tree that I cut from one of the trees that someone bought, because you have to cut them off when you sell them,
Right.
because then they'll soak the water up. So
Right.
every tree that I sold, I had to saw them. Now
Yeah.
some of them are this big, some of them are this big.
Right.
That one was a smaller one. That was like maybe like a 6 footer or something. And I cut the bottom, and I cut the bottom, and I picked it up. And for a second, I was, and I have it right here, by the way. So here it is, the actual thing, and this is the actual date. And I wrote it on there on that day, like
On
the
that
day
day.
after I wrote on the day after I wrote
Oh,
it on that date.
interesting.
The day after that, I wrote that date, and I wrote my name, and I wrote my name on that day, because I turned around, I picked this up off the ground, I turned around, and I was going to hurl this at this jerk. And I thought, and right when I started doing that, I thought to my everything. I, somehow I rose from where I was.
Hmm.
Instead of going down, I went up.
Right.
Because when you understand like the tone scale that we talk
Hmm.
about, from my church, you know, when you get into anger, sometimes it can be a little higher than I was in like grief, in my life. I was down there in grief, and anger just, it brought me up a little bit, enough for where I could, you know, I picked this up, and I go to throw it, and I stopped, and I went like this, picked it up, and I put it in my pocket. I put it in my pocket, and I walked away. And George, the absolute joy and glee that I had at that moment, because for the first time in a long time, like a really long time, I stood up. I said no. I cursed somebody out who deserved it, in my opinion, at that point.
Right.
Still now taking responsibility for everything I've done, and for my responsibility in that, putting myself in that situation. But um, I fought back, and it was so liberating, and I felt so at peace, and I also felt like I was gonna be okay,
Right.
like it was going to work out.
Right.
Like I felt like, okay, now. And so I went home, and the next day I had this, and it was still moist. So this opening right here was very wide.
Hmm.
It was really wide. It was cut like really wide, so it was almost like a Pac-Man with its mouth open
Right.
all the way and stuff. And what happened? It dries up, obviously, through the 14 years, and it closed down. Probably eventually it might be all fully closed, but it closes down like all the time. So the next day I got up, and it was like a new lease on life, and I wrote this down here, and I said, I'm gonna keep this, because every time that I feel like, okay, this is not okay, somebody is trying to put me somewhere where they think I belong. Someone is trying to make me feel less than what I am. Someone is trying to get me to build their dream, to follow their goals, to be part of their journey, and for me to shrink more than I can, than I'm already shrunk. Right. So I was like, and I said, and so I said, every time that happens, I'm going to look at this. I'm going to look at this. This is going to pull me out of that. Then, about 2 months later, on February 20th, um, I started getting the concept of be, do, have. And I started reading the conditions of existence from Scientology Church, and I started understanding what that meant. And this is online. If you type in, which I was surprised, be, do, have. There's thousands. This is very well known concept. I learned it at the church. But this to me represented what I was going through.
Hmm.
It told me that what I was trying to do, I was trying to have something first.
Right.
I was trying to have money.
Yeah. Yep.
I was trying to have money so I couldn't do the work so that I could be what I wanted to be.
Right.
Ass backwards. Ass backwards. And I stopped playing music. As you know, George
Hmm.
and I had a loss in our band. David, we loved and stuff. And after that, it just everything fell apart. We couldn't play. We didn't play anymore. I don't think we played ever since that point as a band. Maybe we tried a couple of times, but I don't think it was it. It didn't materialize into anything. So I was a musician. I was an artist. I was making film. I was not really making films, but I was kind of interested in trying to go into film, and I was sort of taking acting classes and trying. I was trying to have something before I had the beingness of it,
Right.
And so I read this, and it really hit me so hard that I thought, okay, on this day, from this moment on, I'm only going to be what I want to be. I'm only going to have the beingness that I want. And that is as an actor, as an artist, as a musician, as someone who can change conditions in others and in myself willingly,
Hmm.
at will. I can change conditions. I can make myself happy if I'm having a rough day. I'm not going to let anything get me down because my beingness is not going to allow it.
Right.
This is who I am. And then I got to figure out what to do.
Hmm.
What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I got to do something, right? And this was the year that you actually also got me more work on this year. And I
Hmm.
decided on that year, I said, okay, I need to work.
Right.
I need to work. And I did a lot more work that year. I did a bunch of other stuff, and I did about 17 different film projects in that year
Hmm.
that I was in because I said, okay, I'm going to do the work. And what happened? I ended up having a manager. I ended up having big auditions for HBO and different Showtime and different organizations like that. I ended up doing some music videos. I did a bunch of work just because of this guy's the conditions of existence that I learned it. Um, and since that day, really since November 28th, really I just said to myself, okay, I got to start taking responsibility for what I started,
Right.
who I am, like I know I wasn't born in the South Bronx and in poor and all that stuff for nothing. You know what I mean? I knew that I was born for something else, for something bigger, and I didn't know what that was. And sometimes till this day, I still don't know what that is, but I know that it's something bigger,
Yeah.
and I'm having the beingness that I know it is. I
Right.
know it is. This is why it gives me the confidence to do this show and to interview all the legends that we've interviewed, to direct films and to direct music videos and stuff like that. It's just you know, it's not an audacity, it's not arrogance, it's my beingness. That's who I am. I'm
Yes.
an artist. I create things, you know. So the conditions of existence for anyone that's interested, you can send me an email. I'll send them to you. You can read them on your. It's a longer thing. That's my email address here. But I will read a little bit of this real quickly. How much time we got? Oh, we got time.
Yeah, we got time.
And then George, I'll ask. We'll we'll discuss. We'll open up for a conversation. If anybody out there has any comments or you want to make any or tell us your story as well, let us know what you think of this, and we'd love to you know have you involved in the conversation. Um, so this is the conditions of existence. There are three conditions of existence, and the three conditions comprise, which comprise means like make up life. These three conditions, they are be, do, have. The first condition of existence is being. Being is defined as the assumption, choosing, of a category of identity. It could be said to be the role in a game. An
Hmm.
example of beingness could be one's own name. Another example could be one's profession. Another example would be one's physical characteristics. Each or all of these could be called one's beingness. Beingness is assumed by oneself or given to oneself, or it is attained. So you see the problem is, people when you say you can grant someone beingness,
Hmm.
You grant them beingness because you're letting them be who they are. That's
Right.
what we do with our kids,
Yes.
right? We
Yes.
grant
Yes.
them beingness. I grant my wife beingness. I let her be who she is.
Right.
If someone is not in line, this is why artists are either loved or hated, right? Some
Hmm.
artists like they because they're not in line.
Right.
They're not going to fall in line. They're never going to fall in line. That's why they create things that change the way people look at stuff. They're not going to just get in line and get on the treadmill of life. They're going to try to move the treadmill or break the treadmill or start using their feet and get off the treadmill altogether, right? So, for example, in playing of a game, each player has his own beingness. The second condition of existence is doing. And by doing, we mean action, function, accomplishment, the attainment of goals, the fulfillment of purpose, or any chance a change of position in space. So an action, right? So like this, I want coffee. I move this. I just had an action. This is a doingness. I
Right.
just did something, right? So I changed the position of this thing in space. I moved it from there to here. I drank and I put it back, right? Um, the third one is the existence of havingness. And by havingness, we mean owning, possessing, being capable of commanding, positioning, taking charge of objects and energies or spaces. The essential definition of having is to be able to touch or permeate or to direct the disposition of. So, in order to be able to do something, you got to move something, right?
Right.
You got
Right.
to,
Right.
something has to move, right? Even energy in your mind. If you're thinking about something, you're moving energy, you're thinking, right?
Right.
Or trying to come up with an idea or something, right? So, these three conditions are given in an order of seniority where life is concerned. The ability is more important than the ability to be is more important than the ability to do. The ability to do is more important than the ability to have. In most people, all three conditions are sufficiently confused and that they are best understood in reverse, which is what I said earlier.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
Um, so the last section here, I guess I am going to read the whole thing. Um, when one has clarified the idea of havingness or possessing, one can then proceed to clarify doingness. And when this is done, one understands beingness or identity. So when you can clarify what's havingness and you can clarify the doingness of it, then you can understand what the beingness is, right?
Hmm.
It is essential to a successful existence that each of these three conditions be clarified and understood. The ability to assume or to grant, give or allow, beingness is probably the highest human virtue. It is even more important to be able to permit other people to have beingness than to be able oneself to assume it. L. Ron Hubbard.
Mm.
So think about that for a second, where he's saying, that even granting someone beingness is more important,
Right.
than even you having it, because it puts, it's giving you the ability to be, because
Right.
you're being someone that's being able to grant havingness,
Right.
to grant beingness, I mean, to someone, right?
Mm.
So this is a very important time in my life, and I go back to it, George. I probably go back to this every day
Wow.
because this is on my desk every day.
Sure.
And every desk that I've ever had for the last 14 years, every job, even when I had an office job, I would take this. I used to carry this in my bag. I used to carry this in my, I used to carry like a book bag, a bag. This would be in my bag. So even if I was digging up for something and it pops out and I see it for a split second, it brings me back to like thinking like, and this is not an idol, this is not something that I worship. This is just a piece of wood, but it does bring me to a time where I really remembered something
Hmm.
important to me. If this goes away tomorrow, it's not going to change anything for me.
Right.
It's just
Exactly.
something that it hasn't gone away, and I have it. Um, and for me, it represents the knowledge I was missing at that time, that I was, and the responsibility that I wasn't taking at that time.
Hmm.
You know, about being, because how many times, George, you and I have been shifted,
Mm.
or musically, basically. I mean, how many we played with bands together, and George and I have played together probably more than anybody else has played together. um, um, and we would have these long conversations, and we would talk about what we wanted to do, and we talk about the band, and then somebody would come in to the band, and then they would change a little bit of the dynamic of what we had going on. They would
Right.
change it. Some of them would not grant beingness to us. They
Right.
thought they were whatever, and we would just kick them out.
Right.
Others, of course, like Dave, Eddie, and Holland, we love those guys, and we had a good relationship. We
Hmm.
hung out when we weren't playing.
That's
And
right.
that's a big sign. We would go to dinner with our
Hmm.
with our women back in them back in them days, and we'd have a wonderful time. So it's for me, it's a lesson that I talk about often, because I know that there are a lot of people that are doing things that they don't want to be doing, and they don't have to be doing them, but we're so conditioned in the trap. We're so conditioned that we need to have that Friday paycheck going into the account. We're so conditioned that we get the 2 week off, and then we get vacation. And then Friday's a Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Oh, Monday, Monday. And those things. And but at the same time, one of the things that I did was like, I I'll take a job to forward my purpose.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to cave into it.
Right.
You think about it, and we've done this before, where we talk about the 167 hours in 7 days, right? In a week, right? Or
Hmm.
160, whatever it is,
Yeah.
160 something, right? Well, if you're only working 40 hours and give yourself 50 for commuting, give yourself 60 for commuting, I don't know, whatever. You have 100 hours that you can create whatever business you
Yep.
want to create. So
Correct.
that's what I started doing. I started saying, okay, I'm going to work at whatever job I can get. And that's what George, I told George, I sat with him. He would send me out, and I did a bunch of stuff all through different places in New York. And I said, okay, well, I'm here now. I'm in New York. During my breaks, I'm going to go to auditions.
Right.
And that's what I did. I would go auditions. And when I get off, sometimes I'll go see you.
Hmm.
If I had a morning shift at a place, something, I would get off. I go to George's office and
Yep.
stuff. And I just decided that whatever it was that I did for money did not matter.
Right.
That was my income, and that income I have to manage, through financial planning, which I do every week, and make sure that it goes to the proper areas that it should go to forward my purpose, to forward my wife's purpose, to forward my kids to purposes, and to have all of us kind of moving in the direction that we know we're getting better. Yeah,
Right.
maybe, I mean, and I like all my jobs. I mean, everything that I do right now, I like, because it's in the industry that I like. I work with technology, I work with computers, I work with video, I do editing, I do social media consulting. I have a client that I do that. So all the stuff that I do is stuff that I enjoy doing anyway, and that I would
Right.
be doing anyway. And that money I use for JHS Talent to forward, my other purposes. My band, I play in a band now here in Nashville. So anyway, that's my story. I hope I didn't go too long-winded on that, but and I didn't cry, which was good. Actually, I wouldn't cry now. I mean, I've, I've, the hardest thing of this whole thing was my mom.
Yeah.
That was the
Hmm.
hardest thing. And 2009 was, I mean, imagine the ending of 2009, when all that stuff happens, right? You can't find, I'm like working at this one place. Mom gets sick, she passes. I get laid off a week later. A week later, I get laid off. Now I can't find anything. George gets me some stuff just to stay above water, because
Right.
we were literally in a really bad place. And then I'm selling Christmas trees in November 28th. I'm selling a Christmas tree. Um, so it was a year that and by the way, it didn't all smooth out. It was when I decided to be, a lot of a lot of stuff happened to me that was crazy, not good things.
Right.
I mean, 2010 and 2011 were rough years, and I'll talk about those in some other future stuff. But 2010, I found out on Father's Day, as a matter of fact, I found out that we were going to be parents. I mean, literally on Father's Day. I was shooting a movie. I came home. I was exhausted, and my wife came in, and had a little gift box. She hands it to me. I opened it up, and it was like one of those tests and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And I looked at it. I was like crying, and so 2010 was great. 2011, my daughter was born. Blessings, right? But during those 2 years, trying to figure out what the hell was going on and trying to be this thing, man, you get battled. People will battle you. You tell someone that you're gonna do this, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, okay," in their minds. And even if
Yes.
they're not doing it in their minds, or even if they're not doing it and you don't see it, they're in their minds. And it's not that they don't want you to succeed. I think it's that they themselves have things that they wanted to do that they did not do.
Right.
And you represent their giving up.
Yes.
So even till this day, I remember I was leaving a job once, and this guy came out to me. He's like, he's a member at one of the jobs I had. He came out to me. He's like, "John, why are you leaving here? This is a good job. You got benefits. It's hard out there, man. I mean, if I were you, I would just retire from this place. Retire from this place, And my heart was like sank, and because he scared me.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I'll be okay.
Right.
But luckily I was able to, knock on wood. I was able to actually make it. So anyway, thank you for indulging me on that spiel. I hope that the information, the conditions of existence, my little demo here, helped. And George.
It's a learning. First of all, I learned more about you right now in this moment. Even as long as we've been, as long as we've hung out since kids. But it's interesting. But when you look back at that situation, right? How many people in that situation at that moment would have made the decision to walk away?
Oof.
Right? Because think about it. Because how many people are in those types of positions dealing with people the person that you dealt with, would have stayed there out of fear that they cannot leave there, okay? That they must be there because I've known people who were in a job for 20 years who were getting abused at this job, but because of the fear of, leaving this job.
Yeah.
That type of thing. So you right there, you made that decision. The decision was made at that point. And like you said, even though you went through other stuff, but the fact is that you just cut it off. You said, you decided, boom, I'm out of here, and I'm gonna be what I want to be, and you had to fight through to get to that point.
And there was still fear.
And it was still fear, right? Because think about, and again, because you and I we think similar. Right. We don't always do the same things, but we think very similar in ways. Now, in my family, you were considered, a crazy guy, a rebel, a crazy guy, right? You were the poster child for instability, right? Because in my family, you worked in your city job for 40 years, and then you got retired, and then you sat home and stared at the wall. And I literally have family members that are kind of doing that at this point, and you represent the complete opposite of that. Okay. So, in my life, because you actually kind of helped me in that way, at least initially in that way, to see that there was other things in life, that I can play music, that I can be something, that I can, do these things, even this show, right? Mm-hmm. You represent that part of me that is able to be free, really. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome,
because
it's a lot.
It's absolutely true. Because if I wouldn't, it's funny because when you're 15 years old and I'm hanging out with you and everybody's telling you you're crazy, right? I'm in my head saying, well, he's crazy.
And I was.
Right. I'm in my head going, he's crazy. Why would I follow him? You know what I'm saying? But then there comes a point where I even said to myself, well, wait a minute. It makes sense what he's doing. And this is where I started to get older and I started to realize that, there's more to life, and so it's very interesting. And then through music, right? Music was one thing, but one thing that I did when I learned, you and I did it a little bit, I got into a marketing company and I started to learn from these guys in the marketing company where I was working a full-time job, but I was doing my marketing and I was running a business on the side. And I was going, holy cow. And this is one of the things that they stressed in that, kind of like the be do have. They basically kind of hammered into you up here first.
Always. Up
here first. And this was my revelation. Mindset. Up here first, before you do all this, the do, the have. If you don't have it up here, the do and the have is not gonna happen. Nope. And I had to learn that. And I was like, wow. And I never forget the guy, one of the things that the guy told me, and this guy's a multimillionaire. He said, if I lost it all tomorrow and you dropped me in the middle of a field, right, just by myself with nothing, I guarantee you in a couple of years, I would have everything again. He says, because it's here.
It has nothing to do with giving people money. That's the first thing.
Exactly.
It has to do with figuring out who you are.
Right.
First.
Yes.
And then everything else will, being afraid. If you're afraid, that means it's good.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be challenged. You want to be doing things that are scary, and that kind of push you a little bit, and I think also what you said earlier about people who don't want to leave the jobs because they're afraid. The sad part is that they have no idea how much power they have.
Right.
If you think about a job, paying somebody, how much money do you think they're making in comparison to how much they're paying?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, they're not paying people to break even.
Yeah.
Right. If they're paying someone $20 an hour to work, well, they must be making $100 over that, and you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot. Plus the experience. You have somebody that has 20 years experience at a job, they can go out and get another job.
Sure.
You have 20 years experience at a job, But again, the fear.
Correct.
And it's also there's two things. There's fear. And then there's just people who are just complacent. They just get comfortable and they're like, why would I go? I've had people tell me that. Why would I leave this job? I mean, I like it and, pays my bills. And, it's like, and the responsibility is a big factor, in those jobs that you got me, the people were fantastic. They were really nice. Mm-hmm. Some of them were there for many, many years and they were very comfortable there because the responsibility level was not high.
Right.
And if that's where, like for me, I like more responsibility. I like to try to take more responsibility. And sometimes I'm challenged in some areas because I don't want to do something, but I jump into it and I take another, I kind of increase the responsibility level. And as you're doing that, you're becoming more powerful. You're becoming more able. You're getting more ability to create things. You're being more.
Yes.
The more you do, the more you live.
Right. Correct.
And so, shrinking is not the way to go.
But what's interesting about you, and I think that, and you can, tell me if I'm wrong, but your mom, who was an amazing person, and even in my life, because she was amazing to me. I had always had a great time with her. When she raised you, she told you can do anything you want to do.
She did. Yeah,
she let you be you. And this is where a difference is, I think, and even in my family, I love my mom and everything, but in a lot of families, you don't get that. In a lot of families, they want you to be exactly what they want you to be. I mean, they want you to be, again, my mom didn't want me to be a musician. She thought it was a passing fad. She thought, he'll get rid of those drums. 35 years later, we're still waiting.
Right.
The drums are in the living room here, But I'm saying, but again, a lot of people don't have that. And there's that conditioning, right? And
Yes.
then there's the fear and that whole thing where you had that, where your mom was like, no,
It,
go out and make something of yourself. Do whatever you want to do. Sing your song. Do it, which
yeah,
is an amazing thing. And
it
I
is.
think that plays a big part
It
into
does. 100%.
your
I'm glad you
mindset
mentioned that.
even at that time.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I think that was something that was, probably not. It didn't probably hit my head when I picked this up to hurl it at that dude.
Yeah.
I'm sure that mom had a lot
Yeah.
to do with like
Yes.
stopping me,
Right.
you know,
Exactly.
from doing that. Like my grandparents, my grandpa was great. I never met my dad officially, but my grandpa held that role, and he was an amazing human being. My grandma was very conservative and did not want me to. She liked the fact that I played guitar, and that was okay. But a guitar player in the family was usually somebody who drank a lot and who didn't really do much.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't something that she would but she didn't stop me from playing,
Hmm.
but she didn't encourage me. But my mom would say, and she would tell all of us this. She would say, and it was always the same line: you can do whatever you want as long as you put your mind to it.
Look at
That's
that.
all she said. It was the same line drilled to us year after year after year growing up. You can do whatever you want in life, but you have to put your mind to it. And by that she meant you gotta freaking work.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
gotta work. You have to figure it out. Like we weren't given money, right?
Right.
Nobody had money in our house. We weren't given opportunities. You know what I mean? The first family member that gave me a job was you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we were already adults,
Yeah.
and so we didn't have uncles that had businesses that can bring us into their company and give us jobs that we didn't deserve.
Right.
We didn't have money. We didn't have trust funds. We didn't have people paying. Like I hear parents like paying for the full wedding, of their thing, or paying for like a down payment of a house.
Yeah.
Like they paid for the down payment of the house. I'm like, you paid for the down payment of a house? Damn, that's unbelievable. We didn't have any of that. We
Right.
had to figure it out on our own. And one of the blessings that I had was that as I got older, my mom continued to always put that in, instill that in me. But then I was somewhat able to operate, on my own in schools and stuff like that. Because in school, you're going to meet, negative people, and you're going to meet people that are not doing well in their family. So they bring it to school because they
Yeah.
think everyone should be that way. But I was already conditioned. I always thought if this is what I'm expected to do, there's a good chance I ain't gonna do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're expecting me to do this, there's a good chance I'm not gonna do it. If you're demanding it, then I'm not gonna do it. You know what I mean? Like that's just no way. And one of the things that when you and I were growing up, you know, I don't think I didn't know, by the way, that there was this thing that people thought that I was. I felt it
Yeah.
because I'm a pretty aware person, and I could feel that people were kind of just like, not super happy with where I was going in life. I don't know what they thought I was gonna do, but riding my bike back and forth from your house
Yeah.
to my house, but I don't know what they thought, but I didn't know that that was going on anyway. But I did feel it, but it didn't bother me because I already knew what I was doing. I not really knew what I was doing, but I already knew that I wasn't going to do anything that was bad.
Yes.
Like
Right.
throwing this to a guy is not my personality.
Right.
Now I
Exactly.
was angry enough where he deserved a piece of log up his nose, but not from me.
Right.
Let
Sure.
somebody else do that. Let somebody
Sure.
in that position do that. I'm not going to make that decision because I'm better than that guy,
Exactly.
and I'm going to do better than that guy. And I have done better than that guy, and I can guarantee you that.
Right.
But, you know, this is a lesson. One of the things that I used to tell you was that, to go outside the fence,
Yes.
the gate, was that it's the same air. It's like,
Yeah.
there's nothing different from here out there. And but at the time I wasn't doing it because I thought I'm gonna really show this kid something. I'm gonna show him the
Right.
world. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I was operating off my instincts. You know what I mean? I just knew that there was way more out there that we could be doing and that we can be confronting and that we can be experiencing, and through music we experienced a whole lot, and that was a whole lot of fun. And and through health and fitness, and we would work out and we'd have pictures of Lee Haney on our walls, and then he was on our show. We got to interview him. I mean, that was, who, what, that's like unbelievable that we were able to do that. He said he's coming back, by the way, for this
Oh
year, so
yes.
Lee Haney will be back. So one of the blessings I had was the fact that I was able to maintain. Well, I didn't take drugs.
Yes, and that
Never
was
did.
the big thing because it's funny that you say that because I had it in my ear from my family like don't hang out with him or why are you wasting your time with him or he's unstable, he's doing all these he's doing it was that. But I in my head I was like, listen, he's not a drug addict. He's not robbing stores. He's not getting arrested and doing all these crazy things.
I'm playing
He's
guitar.
he's playing guitar. We're playing basketball. We go out to the
Yep.
park and play basketball. We'd hang out, and I'm doing things that I wouldn't be able to do. I'm going out because, again, my family. I wasn't really allowed to do a lot of these things. I was, but I was able to get out because you said, "Come on, let's go here, let's go there, let's do these things." So in my head, I always knew, you know what? I'm going to hang out with him, regardless of what anybody
Well, you
says.
were aware enough. I think this is one of the reasons why we do this show. It's one of the
Right.
reasons why you do the job that you do in health and fit and wellness, is because you're aware.
Yeah, exactly. There was an awareness, even though I wasn't sure yet, but I knew
Yeah.
that
It's an
what
innate thing too. You
yes,
feel it inside. You kind of like,
exactly. And then again, back you when you're an artist and you have to create, and at that time as a kid, I had to create, and then I felt it. It's funny. I had this conversation with my wife back when this was probably when we were first married, and we were talking about music and talking about us being away and constantly playing and being out there and all this. And I don't know if it was an argument or whatever, but I turned to her one day and I said, "Have you ever had anything in your life that you were so that drove you so much that you had to do that you would die if you didn't do it?" And I asked her that question, and she paused and she looked at me and she said, "No." And I said, "Then you will never know how I feel.
right.
You will never know what I'm going through in here and what I'm feeling."
Yeah,
I said, "Until you have that feeling, you don't know."
it's true.
And ever since that conversation, we never had a conversation like that again because she kind of understood,
Yeah.
this is me. This is what I
It's
do.
uncontrollable.
Exactly. It
It's
is
an urge to
uncontrollable.
create because it's an obsession, it's a compulsion, but it's a healthy one,
Hmm.
and you're doing it in order to experience yourself, the ability to create something and
Yes.
to help others alleviate a moment of stress.
Right.
And it's like whatever it is. I mean, the guitar, the for me, was an escape. Outside people were getting shot in my neighborhood. They were smoking crack. They were doing all of the things that I knew for a fact that I was never going to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I was still in this environment. I'd go home, I put on, I have my guitar, I listen to some Led Zeppelin or listen to some Hendrix or whatever, Stevie Ray Vaughan, whatever it was, and I'm suddenly I'm in this euphoric s- space that I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you're playing and you're really in the groove, it's like, and I know this is a long episode, but it's like flying. It's
Yes.
like what I would think flying would be. The ability just to be free in the air when
Hmm.
you're playing and you're going, and and you don't hit it all the time.
No.
Sometimes you're
No.
playing because you got to play the song and you're in this
Exactly.
part and this is the part that this comes and you're there. But sometimes you hit a level of something that it's hard to explain what it is, but it is an aesthetic wavelength. It's very high up.
Yeah. You're tapping into
You're
that. Yeah.
tapping into something
Yeah.
that and it's like flying. So
Correct.
it is kind of like a drug in a sense that we're always trying to get to that place. We
Exactly.
always want to feel that high, and and because you hit it so rarely, it's a constant search for that kind of thing.
That's
But
right.
that's an interesting conversation that you have with your wife, because you're right. It is the thing that you think about the most. It
Yeah.
is the thing that, I mean, I have my, my, I never have this thing more than a foot away from me. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's literally always right here, because I pick it up, you know, every chance I get, I pick it up and I play it.
Yeah.
And I play every day. Every day I pick that thing up and I play, even if it's 10 minutes.
Yep.
It's because it's part of it's part of my DNA, you know,
Exactly.
as artists especially. Woo, baby. Yeah. So
Deep.
yeah, this was a good one. I really, really want to thank everybody for tuning into this, and I see a lot of people have been coming in, and I appreciate y'all very much. There's been also a sense of hope recently in the world that that I could feel happening. There's I don't want to go into it specifically, but there's a lot of things right now that I think we're moving into a another phase of our lives, as a planet, as a unit, as a humanity. I think, um, and I think there's these periods of time of enlightenment, right? There's all these
Hmm.
different periods of enlightenment. There's like two of them that we can recall in history, and I don't think I know 100% that we're in the next one,
Yeah.
of enlightenment. And as an artist and an artist blueprint that we're, this show, this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's to get us all to that next level, to be able to be there for everyone, to be able to you know hold hands to those that need hand holding, and to be able to just be there for those who just want to share their work and support. So we are resources. We are a resource. If anyone needs anything or you have any questions, you can always email me. My not new email address, but for my actual company, it's a john at jhstalentmanagement.com. You can send an email there. um, you can also visit my website if you'd like. If you want to reach out to George, you can go to his website for
Yep.
anything wellness,
Hmm.
and he'll help you get on a plan that's going to make you feel better. um, and I think that's all we got. That's all we got here. But anyway, want to thank you all for your time. Want to thank you for. We definitely don't take this for granted, knowing that there's a lot of stuff that you can do, and the fact that you spend just a few minutes with us here means so much to us, and we are
Yes.
really, really grateful to all of you. And this is why we're here, and we're gonna have some great guests coming up. We have a guest next week, and we're gonna be having a lot of guests. We're very excited about this year, and a lot of things are really, really gonna be incredible. So, all right, folks, want to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you very much, George Batista. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Great, great time hanging out, and we'll see you all next week. And as always, peace.
Peace.